Welcome to another news video where I have a lot of brand new campaigns to show you, some updates to some really big ones, some talking points, especially around some companies that have really struggled, and some insight into a video I made earlier where I warned you around Terraria. So we're going to cover all of that here right now. I forgot about the big giveaway. That's there as well. There are chapter links down below. Everything's listed in the description below. Hopefully that helps you guys out if you like the video. Of course, give it a like if you appreciate that kind of effort or the insights that I bring. It does help a lot. Thank you so much. All right, with that out of the way, let's go and dive into Oath New Foundations. Now, if you haven't heard of Oath, well, then this might be something that you might be interested in. A lot of people did. This has been around for a while, a couple years now, actually. I think 2021, I believe, is when it first came out. And it's a game that, like, you play and then you play again, but it remembers your last play. And so you kind of, like, continue on. So it's kind of like a legacy game in that sense where, like, every play is different because it matters on what happened last time, but it's not like a campaign game in that sense either. Instead, you're just continuing to play the game through sessions. It's kind of an interesting way to deal with like lineage and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. It's got a pretty neat art style that's fairly unique as well. What this one is here, this Oath New Foundations, is actually two different expansions that they've added to it, and they talked about how they weren't even sure around, you know, how much expansions it could really do, but these seem to lay in there pretty well. So the New Foundations is kind of the main one here when it comes to what you get, where as a Chancellor you get to use different things, and it just talks about the new additions to this, right? Which is fine. This bonus content, you're going to see that here and in this one. It's the same thing. 50 plus new unique Denzians and deluxe components with extra dice, resin, times 5 secrets, and bandit pieces, right? And then this one, again, same thing there. So the Clockwork Adversaries is essentially a solo pack. So this one allows for solo, which is kind of cool. It has this new solo mode for 40 bucks, and then again, New Foundations for the 50, plus you get this kind of bonus here, which is pretty neat, I suppose. Or you can get both of them for $90 instead of $135 apparently, and again, you still get that. Just note that this is a one-time thing, right? So it's not like you get like double it or anything like that, if that makes sense. Then, of course, they have the all-in for around $200. They show you kind of a few things there. Obviously, you get the new stuff as well. You also get this stuff right here, right? So you've seen these two, you get these two also. So just as an FYI. And then, of course, they have card sleeves as well. Okay, so that's pretty much all you need to know here. Again, feel free to check it out if you want. They've been doing great. Still 9 days to go at time of recording. Over 7,000 backers and $600,000+ raised. Not too shabby, considering it's just 2 expansions, really, is what they're doing, plus a reprint. So a lot of it's that reprint there. So yeah, very good. That's by Leader Games. I never know exactly how to say that, but either way, doing quite good. Now, this is an interesting one. It's the Cyberpunk Red Combat Zone, a reprint plus Vehicle Mayhem. I do want to talk about this a little bit because I want to make sure you know what you're buying when you get this. So this is a skirmish game. You have to build the minis, and they're made out of like a kind of resin, a very soft resin. It's actually very close to the old like fine cast from Games Workshop, the resin that nobody liked because it was super soft and didn't hold detail well. It's not good quality plastic, and I'll kind of show you that and my issues with that. But it's not like Hips miniatures or anything like that. So don't go in expecting that. It's actually a very soft plastic. You'll have to like super glue these up or whatever. With that in mind, it is resin, and resin is expensive just inherently based off of how you have to actually cast it and the molds and how long those last and all sorts of other stuff. There's a lot of factors. You know, it gets bubbles, and so you have to be really careful pulling it, and then you have to put it in a vacuum to like pull it out. It's an advanced process. So resin is expensive for a reason, just as an FYI. It's not just arbitrarily expensive, though it also inherently is small batch too, unless you have to like print them out more. I don't think they're like 3D printed or anything like that. I do believe it's probably just a cast. But either way, you get 160 and you get this giant ship here. You can see about how big it is comparatively, right? So it's decent, right? Plus these 4 bikes, and then rule book plus stretch goals, right? For 160. For 160, you can also get the 2-player starter pack with the like terrain and game board and stuff like that, plus these 4 plus that, which honestly, that's actually pretty good for a kind of an intro to it. Just know that you're going to have the same units pretty much every time, right? There's not really a lot of variety there. You need a whole lot of the expansions to get that. $220 for this, and you get exactly what you see there. That's the amount you get for $220. For $390, you're getting what you see here, right? So you have the Max Track Starter, another kind of faction, and then of course all these bikes. They can be used for any faction, and then the big Heracles ship as well. And then you have a whole lot of other stuff. For $1,500, you can get your face on a mini, essentially. And then again, they have quite a few other things here. And I mean, so some of it's just like expensive, right? So like here's $50 and it's a game board with 5, again, there are these resin things, but 5 just kind of, you know, normal shipping container stuff, which seems like a lot of money for a game board. I checked, it's not neoprene, it's just a game board that you lay out, and then you put these 5 pieces on it, and that's $50, which, I don't know, it seems like a lot to me, but, you know, some of it's a material. Now, I heard this game's pretty good. People have compared it to like Necromunda and actually being even better than Necromunda. I can't speak to either of those, but regardless, they say it's a pretty good game. So that's kind of cool. I am glad to see that people are enjoying the game, and obviously it is selling, you know, fairly well. Here they only have about 300 backers. 19 days ago, 82,000 raised. So there's definitely more time to gain it, and it's kind of a smaller expansion here. But I think some of the issue is the choice of not just going with PVC minis, which in my opinion would actually probably look better, especially a PVC ABS mix. The problem with that is typically those are pre-assembled, and then you have to offer like storage for that somehow. Whereas here they can put them in little trays. In which case, I'd rather just have hips, my opinion at least. And the reason I like hips more is because this is a video from Gaming with ADHD. I'll go and link to his video down below because it's in here, and that's the proper thing to do. He has these great round table pictures. I remember doing this with miniatures back in the day. It took forever to film, so props to him for doing such a good job on this. But look at that gun. So one of the problems with these molds, if it is molded, is it deteriorates very quickly, right? And so after only you know, so many, it really starts to kind of not hold features well, right? And then like you can even see like the hand is just like it's like a mitten hand kind of thing that can't do like individual fingers very well. So like that's, I mean, I guess it's what, 2 fingers, and you can see the huge amount of flash around the finger, so very large flash. These are 3D printed bases that he printed, so don't pay attention to those, just a mini. But then if we go to like this dog, and you're gonna see in between his hind legs here, it's just completely filled in, and it just looks terrible to me. Like I would be disappointed, to be honest, to spend $200, $500, whatever, and then this is the quality of the mini I get. This doesn't look anything particularly nice to me, at least. I know he's can be happy with them. Other people can have different standards, of course. And when you are looking at a mini super close like this is zoomed in, right? You'll see a lot that you don't see non-zoomed in. So when I used to do the same thing, but still just not impressed. And that filler in there, it just kills it for me. So me personally, not recommending it. Though gameplay wise, I hear it is pretty good. So that's up to you to decide. Of course, I do like the cyberpunk theme. I just like the neo-future theme in general. And yeah, anyway, that's that one there. It's pricey, which is probably why only 300 are backing it. It's just kind of, I wonder if people went into it because it was cool and then kind of got it and were like, yeah, quality is just not there, and then just stopped, or for the price. And that being in resin, like that's huge. That's actually pretty impressive. All right, next up, they also have Mythic Battles Isfet. Now, this is at almost 700,000, 669,000 so far, so 11 days to go. 3,261 at the very exact time of recording have backed this. So doing quite well. Of course, they do have new things for Pantheon. They do have new things for Ragnarok, and they're doing a Ragnarok reprint as well. It's not the Pantheon reprint. So there's quite a bit here, of course. For stretch goals, we're going to go kind of backwards here. So you've been getting new recruitment cards, you got a new god, you got a new monster, 4 new troop minis, so a new troop, a new hero, a god miniature. This is the one, this Mott, or whatever her name is, with the cool, like, things there. They're like halberds or something, or with, like, I don't know, it's wild. Anyway, that was the one I had to blur out in the my unboxing of it, which you can check the link in the description below. Of course, I'll put my unboxing of this in here, the prototype. Looks really good. But it had this art here, and they wanted to kind of hold that for the 400,000 unlock, I guess. Another monster, another hero, another monster, another troop, this time of 3 units, another god, and now another storage box. And then next is another hero miniature. So they're definitely, I mean, the stretch goal stuff is what you want to get, right? Like, just right up front, that's definitely, like, The variety is where it's all at, and so even if you just get Isfet, you definitely want that to add to that variety. For the army building aspect of it, it's honestly really, really good. So that's kind of what you want there. I've kind of already gone over the pledges, so I'm not going to go over them too much here. Really, if you just want to get the core box, that'll get you about 130-ish. And then here, by the way, they do have an open pledge. It's $1. It lets you, I guess it actually translates to $2, but either way, allows you just add add-ons. So they added that so you can just go in and Kickstarter and add add-ons if that's what you want. For instance, if you only want the Pantheon and stuff like that, you can just grab that and not have to grab Isfet at all. So if you don't want to. The Norse All-In Pledge, right, they have that. The Egyptian All-In Pledge. And then they even have a all-new content. And the all-new content will cost you about $352. So still fairly pricey. There's a ton here, of course, because it is this entire campaign plus more expansions for the old stuff. So it's a lot, but I don't know. It's one of my favorite skirmishes. I love the minis. I love the style, the gameplay, the game mechanics are very cool. I love the stat marker trackers. I love the abilities, the army building. It's a lot of fun. I do really enjoy Mythic Battles, so that's probably why I have so much of it. All right, next up is Thorgal the card game. Now, this had a board game before. I think they said Thorgal or Thorgal, or I don't remember how this. I don't know. I'd say Thorgal. Either way, it's the card game version of it. This actually looks kind of cool. It has dual decks. It's essentially up to a 4-player game, and you're trying to like capture locations, right? So essentially, let me see if there's a good picture here. You'll have like so you have 4 double-sided Destiny and then 4 double-sided Bane players, right? Because you're going to be a bad guy and a good guy. It's sort of in a way. Then you can be the Outlaws, the Overlords, the People of the Stars, and the Vikings deck, plus then a whole bunch of other stuff that you get, of course, as well. And all these have been like updated to like wood and stuff, so we'll get to that. But really, the thing here, oh yeah, and it's like what, 39 euro, so not too shabby, really. If I can get a nice picture of it, I'll show you. Essentially, you're trying to capture a location, right? So you pick your cards and yeah, so this is a location and you're trying to capture it. Every other player is using their Bane deck to try and make that harder for you. They're like attacking you with other people, or a rock slide, or a whole lot of other stuff. They have their deck that they're trying to make it harder for you to do, and then it swaps, and then somebody else tries to do it, and you're another bad guy. So you're playing as both against them, and then on your turn you're trying to get it. And it's a very cool mechanic that I actually really dig. I think that's pretty neat. Plus, of course, the art is just awesome, right? Like, it just looks great here. So I really love the art and everything there. I think they have some foil ones. Let's see, they have wooden markers. They have, oh yeah, so they have, all those starter cards are now foil, right? You have an alternate art sleeve if you want that. More foil cards, right? You have different player boards for each faction, so those are all unique art now. You have new deck construction rules and for tournaments and stuff. And then the next one is deck boxes for each faction. So again, there's quite a bit here. I think it looks pretty cool. I'm actually a fan, and this is something I'm seriously looking into. I think it looks kind of nice. It only has 62 hours to go at time of recording. So again, link down in the description below, of course, if you are interested. Now, this did launch before, so here's the Thorgal the card game that they canceled. This is by Lucrum Studio who did this, and they are actually part of a publishing house in Poland that publishes games. They formed a studio to start making board games, with this being their first one. I looked through this. The only thing that seemed wrong with this is they didn't do Kickstarter very well. They didn't get like gifts working well. They didn't do like advertising on BGG. They didn't really get it in the hands of people to review, like you saw those videos in the new one. That wasn't here in this one. So they've gone and done their proper work, and then promptly well, not that one, essentially doubled the amount that they funded already. So definitely good for them on that. And they're approaching that 1,000, right? You obviously want a little bit more than what you order. And with them being a publishing house also, probably not too bad. The one thing to note is, especially in the comments, you're going to see a lot of Polish, I'm assuming is what it is. And so just know that it's not all English in there. And I know that can scare off some people sometimes. So, but otherwise, it looks pretty good. This one's kind of cool. Yokai Septet Pocket Edition. Now, I'm a little late to this. As you see, I already backed it. It was 13 bucks. Why the heck not? This has been out before. This Pocket Edition essentially just shrinks the box. Otherwise, keeps everything from the second edition. So, like foil cards and stuff like that. This is a really cool kind of trick-taking game where you're trying to get the 7 cards, but each deck has a different range of cards, or you're trying to get 4. If you get too many, well, then you actually lose. And so it's just a very cool way to kind of like edge through it. It's a team-based game, though you can do a 3-player free-for-all, though I hear that's not quite as good, so you really want 4 players on this. So again, feel free to look through it, and you can see what it is, but it's honestly, this is something that I would play with my parents, which is why I backed this. When they come and visit, often we'll play stuff like the Greg Moody and stuff. They're just fun little card games you can play over and over again, and that's kind of what this is. So it sounds like a fun little game you can play. The art looks really cool. And again, it was like 13 bucks. Easy win for me for something fun to play when family's over. All right, next up, we have Pillars of Heracles Awaken the Legends. This one has 500 backers, still 15 days to go, 41,000 raised. This is one that's, it's a civilization game, right? 1 to 4 players. These kind of like deity here, hero minis look pretty cool, but otherwise it's very much you like building cities and, like expanding different things. And see, so you have the city states. You're one of like 18 city states, I believe, right? Then you have the heroes, and you're doing a lot of that Civ building up kind of stuff, right? So again, it's not something that I would necessarily play. But the theme looked cool, the art looked cool, and if I was to play one, it would be something like this. And also, it seems to be fairly straightforward as compared to some of the other ones. Some of the other ones I feel get a little more Euro-y than this one. So this one's not too bad in that regard. So again, it's like $49 for the classic edition, right? But what you're going to want, no, it's only 117 backers, right? What you're going to want is not the epic edition, but the heroic edition here, right? You can see 234 backers have this at 105. Comes with a whole bunch of stuff. Then they have this like, crazy edition here, crazy edition here. You don't need to worry about those. Really, it's the 105 version is what you're wanting. Comes with a whole lot of stuff there, like stretch goals and whatnot. So, yeah, that's kind of what you're going for there. And honestly, it looks pretty neat. I love the theme. I'm ever since Titan Quest, I've been into Greek mythology, so definitely cool with that. There's a Blade Runner RPG out, FYI, 4 days to go. 300 and almost 350,000 raised, 4,000 plus backers. This is by Free League. They're the same ones that did like the One Ring and stuff like that. Really, it's just, I mean, what, 38 bucks and you get to the RPG book. Even if you just collect RPG books for the lore and the art and the kind of the fanciness, I like them. Like, they almost make like good like coffee table books, right? They're just fun to read through and look through and leaf through. And this one looks beautiful. It looks really, really nice here. So, yeah, an easy kind of win there. And of course, if you actually play RPGs, I don't. Then now you can be in the Blade Runner universe, which sounds actually super duper cool to me. So the starter bundle, by the way, is about $57, and that gives you both of the books that you would need to kind of start that. And then they have like an asset pack and stuff like that. All right, next up, Grim Coven, $1.7 million, 9,000 plus backers, and still 18 days ago. This did incredibly well. Awaken Realms definitely knows how to run a campaign, especially on their own website, sister company GameFound, but whatever. Yeah, this is pretty well done here. I like some things and I don't like some things, so we'll kind of talk through it a little bit. You see there's stretch goals here. With 1.7 million, you'd think, wow, a ton of stretch goals. Two stretch goals. You have a Death Jester model, and then you have this like dragon guy here, which we'll show more detail. And that's really what you get so far. Now, they'll have more. It kind of just launched, right? Now, what you're seeing here is with add-ons like the terrain set, you can kind of see what those look like there. Honestly, like this looks pretty fancy. This looks super cheap to make. Notice it didn't even make the base a different color or anything like that. I say that because it's like almost $2 a mini for that. So we'll talk about that as well. Standard edition that most people won't get, $59. Special edition that almost everybody will get, $109. I say that not as a joke, but as kind of reality. That's just kind of how it is. I've never understood why it's worth it to have a SKU that I don't know. It doesn't get as much traction as I feel might be worthwhile. Because I'm wondering, because obviously some of those would have upgraded if they had to. So I'm wondering how much you're actually losing by not having it. I always question that. I'm not sold on that. Let's see, the minis all look good. You've seen a lot of this. So let's go ahead and go to stretch goals. On the stretch goals, you can see they're doing it like every few days. So day 1, day 3, and day 5, right? So because it's only been 4 days or 3 days, I guess. So we just unlocked this. You just get, 2 of them. Now, this is a whole nother boss, right? So it's a big thing. This is a Graveyard Dragon boss. And he looks great. The art looks super cool. The mini looks super cool. Obviously, what it'll finally look like in its final form is different than this. This is a render that doesn't have to deal with the realism of having to come out of a steel mold, obviously, right? With some PVC minis. So what that'll look like finally, you know, who knows? But it looks great right now. And honestly, none of it looks like super like terrible and like realistic. A lot of it's just like the spikes and stuff. Often you just can't have that negative space. It has to be able to come out of the mold and not just have metal stuck in between it. So as long as you can arrange that in a certain way, you're typically pretty good. Now, they do have some expansions, right? So if you didn't back early, you can get the Renegade Hunter mini expansion for $9. Otherwise, you do have these personal stories here, which is really just some booklets and some little bookmarks there, right? That you get to essentially get some upgrades. The playmats, that's not too bad. You get 5 different playmats for $20. I believe normally they are stitched, and that's, I think, what you're kind of seeing there. So that'll look pretty nice. You have the acrylic add-ons for $22. This is honestly, I think, looks pretty nice as well. They're definitely fancy. I remember, again, old school back in the day when you used to get acrylic added to your game, but those days are long gone. Now it is an add-on. But $22 for all these. I mean, notice again, 65 status markers. It's a pretty token-heavy game, so adding them in acrylic, not too bad. This one I'm less sold on. It's a train expansion. It's $35 for 20 minis. This is the only advanced one. All these other ones are fairly straightforward, right? Some of these have some niceness here, but I mean, you saw these, right? And then again, they even put 2 different plastics there like they did on some of the other ones, so it's just, I mean, you saw exactly how it kind of looks like, and you get 2 of those. I don't know if that's worth like $1.50 to me kind of thing, right? I'm not too certain on that. They're cool designs, don't get me wrong. I love the chest that it's open. You don't often see that. That's super cool. I imagine they're going to have to reinforce that and put some of the coins on that side. I don't think that's going to really make it. Same with this negative space here. I'm not super sold that's going to work. I get the base will have to be separate, but even then, I think that's a little tight. We'll see. We'll see how that ends up. So again, some of these need to be touched up when it comes to like practicality of making it as a mini. I don't know. It's expensive. For 20 minis, spending $35. I'm not so sold on that. You can also get a Grim Coven art book if you want to see some AI art that's been touched up by humans. You can pay $16 to look at that, I guess. As in case you didn't know, it came out that they use AI art and then just touch it up. And so anytime you see anybody's hands, just know that's probably the human part of the AI image that was produced. So I guess there's that. It looks cool. Like I said, this guy looks cool. I just don't know for the price on some of those things, but some of them are kind of nice too. So like that, that's super cool. I dig that. The portal looks awesome, and that's the like special. It's not even a terrain pack. So some things you get terrain without the terrain pack, which is kind of interesting. So anyway, they're doing great though. 1.7 million, dear Lord. It's because the theme is freaking awesome, and they need to make more board games in this theme. I think so. Next up, Terraria. Okay, so 1.2 million here, almost 1.3 million, 9,000 plus backers. Still 12 days ago. This is by Paper Fort Games. This is the Relogic backed to, Terraria official board game here. So I guess a little update here. Again, I made a warning video on this. You won't see this link down below just because... okay, so... I had a meeting with the owner, James, of Paper Fort Games, also Stone Sword Games, who made Senjutsu, and it was probably the worst board game experience I've ever had. He was kind of a bully, was very aggressive, unkind, and didn't seem to care about the backer side of things at all. In fact, I don't think I've ever met anybody who cared less about the backer side of things. That was pretty impressive. So it didn't bring a lot of confidence to me that he has any backers' interests in mind or anything like that besides whatever next campaign he can get money from is what I got from it. It was actually really, really bad. Like, incredibly bad. So won't be talking to James ever again in my life if I can help it. And definitely probably won't be attaching any games that he's attached to this channel either. That being said, I do want to say that I did reach out to Relogic as well afterwards, and they were incredibly professional, incredibly awesome, answered my questions, super nice people, super great, and super invested too. And so with that in mind, while I think he's a loose cannon in the game industry, he doesn't take negativity very well at all, apparently. And so, he has the history with making bad decisions in Suigetsu, and then Paper Fork Games. He has other people making decisions for him that seem to do really well, but I don't know how long they will last. They may not last, in which case we're left with James again. So I'm a little concerned about him. I really am, and anything he touches, to be honest. But Relogic is very invested in this, so the IP kind of saves this here. So if you are interested in this campaign, which I know a lot of people are, me liking Terraria, obviously I'm a fan as well, you could probably back this one with confidence because the IP holders are so invested in this. They're very much tracking it. They're very much looking for it and very much invested in it. Anything that has a Terraria name on it, Relogic is 100% behind. So that's super great. That's really good. I'm glad to hear that. So this one probably gets a pass, but if James ever does something that's not IP related or for an IP that just licenses it and that doesn't care, that warning still stands for me. All right, moving on from that, we have Story of Mini. Now this one, I really wanted to see at Essen. It was at Essen. They even have pictures of it. I looked, couldn't find it. Like I couldn't. I mean, Essen is huge, right? Granted, it's a massive board game convention. But at Essen Spiel, I missed it. But Story of Mini does look pretty cool. It's very much old school RPG. It even says right here, right? I mean, it has a ton of stuff. So we'll kind of scroll through and just show it. This is coming out here soon. It says 150-minute playtime. I imagine that can get a little bit longer. 1 to 4 players here. The art obviously I think looks great. The minis look pretty neat. I actually like the renders quite a bit. They're very classic. But as you can see here with the open world exploration here, 56 unique regions, 200 plus rumors, 40 plus adventures, stunning overworld experience, narrative procedural content generation, 180 unique monsters, fast and engaging strategic combat, beautiful miniatures. You can get 60 plus of those. Create your own character where you have 10 plus classes. This is a 3-layer board thing where you have the slot there and then you can put cards on it and then you can also put stuff underneath. So you really customize your character, right? And each of these classes, there's 405 different abilities in there. So you might be a pirate, a rogue, a seer, a sorcerer, a wizard, but then even in the wizard or the sorcerer, you can do dark magic, or you can do fire magic, you can get a little bit of both, or you can do like all sorts of different stuff. So it actually looks pretty cool when it comes to that. This is actually almost the least amount here, right? With these legacy components, 28 armors, 80 wondrous items, 21 herbs, 72 weapons. Like, I'm actually surprised it's not more. That's still a lot. Don't get me wrong, because I imagine they're almost all unique. I would suspect they almost are. 33 potions, right? Events, secret formula. There's the 60 plus minis that shows like a faun with a violin. So some more unique stuff than what you always typically get. 400,000 words, 60-hour plus campaign, right? Just, this is a lot. Now, we get a lot of these kind of games. See, here they were. They were right here. I was somewhere around here, and I never saw this. I kept looking. I did. I promise. We get a lot of these kind of games, but normally I don't feel like they're as produced as this. And what I mean by that is a lot of times these old school ones are very much passion projects that don't necessarily sell well. They don't necessarily do well. This has almost 10,000 people following it. Hopefully more after I post this video because I do think it looks cool. This looks like a legit, well-funded, well-done, professional board game, old school style. And that excites me a little bit, though it does look huge as well. So a little intimidating, actually. All right, next up we have Varode, Age of Prophecy. I've shown this before. This has the like multi-tiered 3D dungeon thing where you like, they're like on these pegboards and then you get stairs that go up. And so it's like 2, 3, 4, high or whatever. So there's a lot here. It definitely looks pretty neat. I know they contacted me asking for a, I don't know, I didn't read the email yet, but I'll get to it. You might see it on the channel, I guess is what I'm saying, if I can take a look at it or not. But yeah, Varode, that looks pretty cool too. Next up we have Darkblood. Just as a reminder, this comes out in 2 days. If you didn't see my older video where I covered this, you can hang your minis on this in this game. It is a Euro game, so nothing I would get. But for a Euro game, it has a pretty cool theme to it. So I do appreciate that. It looks awesome. So I think that's really neat. I mean, you got like skull minis and you're making sacrifices and hanging your minis. It's wild. So it looks pretty cool in that sense. It looks cool. It plays like a Euro, which, people will have various opinions on that. I'll word it that way. Okay, here is the Odalin giveaway. You pick, I think, 3 of these to win. So you don't necessarily win all of these. I think you pick which ones you want, but they have everything from Oathsworn to Kingdom Death Monster to Frosthaven to the Safarian Guard, Tainted Grail, Tenaris. I mean, a ton of stuff, right? So what it is this Gleam. I'm going to link to this also. 63 days left. There's been about 5,000 entries. I had to do 2. If I win one of those, I'm going to give it to somebody else. I don't want to win. The only reason I did 2 is because you'll only see these 2. And only after you do these 2 will you get this other option here. So then you can like the Odalin BGG page for 2. You can visit Dragori Games on Facebook for 1. And then you get this link to refer people to. And up to 4 people that use that link, you get entries for each one of those as well. So there are 7 total ways, I believe, to enter. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I guess 9 actually like entries you can get here. So yeah, good luck. Hopefully somebody from the channel wins. I think that'd be awesome. One last thing, Hyperspace. Petersen Games. The almost here doesn't necessarily refer to Hyperspace. It refers to the mystery package that people are getting. This is now like the 3rd update for. So if you didn't know, I've covered this a few times before. They have a financial person that came in and like, hey, we want you to design games and you to make games. I've long said that's exactly what Petersen needs. I think he's a great designer that designs games that people like a lot, and the themes that they like a lot, and he has all these cool ideas. However, when it came to running the business, somebody else needs to be in charge, and that's exactly what's happened here. So that's good. I think that's great. And in fact, I think most board game companies need that. They need a creative person and a business person, because normally, if you're good at both, you can't. Like a good creative person is, the sky's the limit. They're not thinking about what'll sell. They're thinking about what's great. The business person then has to rein that person in, but then the creative person needs enough to be able to push and say, no, it would be great if we did this. I know it's not the best business, but trust me, this will be great. And you need that kind of good balance there, and that's hard to get. Some companies have it, some don't. I think it's very important. I love the idea of business guy and creative guy paired together, equal footing, being able to make compromises where it makes sense to make great product that actually is successful. I think it's great. So that's cool. And as you can see, we're extremely pleased with the partnership. It precisely addresses Petersen Games' weakness, i.e. the business and production, and multiplies our strengths, design, and gameplay. Totally agreed. I said this long ago by Petersen Games, so it's great to see that actually happened. In short, Petersen Games continues to thrive. Now, I gotta stop there. I don't know about thrive and continues to thrive. I didn't know they had been thriving. I figure a thriving game company makes games, and that's not something they've been able to do. So I would stop with the thrive until you start delivering some of the games you promised. One of the current tasks, for an example, this is for the company that took over, is optimizing Hyperspace's figure sculpts, not changing any aesthetic, but making them more efficient for tooling. This is such an obvious thing, and the fact that Petersen Games wasn't doing that and hadn't done that shows why they failed as a business. It really, really does. If you you can make games super expensive or really easily, and the manufacturer, the company that makes it, like over in China typically, doesn't typically care. As long as you're paying the bill, they don't care if you go broke doing it or not, right? So if you tell them, yeah, go on and make that and make it 30 million parts, they'll do it. If you tell them to use a fancy, expensive plastic, they'll do it. And so if a company isn't smart about making their game and getting that business part of it, then yeah, you're going to overexpend way more money than you need to. So if they hadn't already optimized this and tooled this for physical production in an efficient way, that's impressive. Considering, I remember last year talking about how they were still tooling. So they've been tooling for a long time now, over a year easily. A long time they've been tooling, and it sounds like they are still tooling. Now, they have this mystery package, right, that's coming, and it's from this new partner that's setting up product distribution and manufacturing in the USA. Now, I want to pause here for a moment and just give you kind of my hot take here when it comes to manufacturing in the USA. Conceptually, I love it, especially as a game designer, because you can quickly iterate on your game in a very nice way. That being said, if you feel you need a manufacturer to do that, then you're not prototyping well, because you can prototype without that. The only exception is if you're using a game that definitely uses the components as part of it. So a lot of the dexterity games, for instance, it gets a little bit harder to do, right? But whether it's the token you want or not doesn't necessarily matter. Now, when it comes to manufacturing it, seeing quick responses and being able to like get it right, that's super good. But during game design, he talked about this where he had to like redesign it and reprint it. That's nice, but you don't necessarily need that. You can redesign something and not have to like have it be manufactured per se either. Again, there are exceptions if you're doing fancy stuff with the thing, you know, like the tower, you know, that you put dice in or something like that. So not really a benefit there. What is nice is obviously it's much lower risk, it's much surefire. The primary audience, normally here in America, will do quite well there. The distribution becomes a lot cheaper. There's a lot less issues when it comes to, you know, getting it there in the Chinese New Year, you know, robbing you from like a month's worth of work and all that kind of stuff, right? The back and forth. So that definitely helps manufacturing side. But I don't buy it with the whole, like, oh, I was able to make a new component. It's like, that's, I mean, if you needed a manufacturer to do that for you, we might have to have a conversation. Now, it will be more expensive by quite a bit. So there's that too. Now, hopefully you save that in shipping costs and stuff, but considering backers pay for the shipping costs, it's no money lost to you necessarily. So we'll see. We'll see. It will be more expensive to manufacture here by a fair amount. Also, and this is a big thing here, is the amount of options you get in China when it comes to what card you want, or what plastic you want, or what method of creation you want, or all these other things, right? The sleeves and the neoprene mats and all that other stuff, right? All of that is so easy and so abundant in China. They've ramped up that industry a lot to where places in like Poland or places in like the US don't have as many options. So they can still print great stuff, for instance, right? But you're not going to get the huge swath of options as a designer when it's like, oh, I want that one. I want this type of foil card. Well, they may not have that. They may have one optional foil card. You either get it or you don't, or two. Hopefully that makes sense, right? When it comes to the vast amount of things you can do, you can't beat the selection of China. So your selection is limited when you're here. So just as an FYI. That being said, after all of this, right, and he's teasing about the mystery package, and you're gonna get a card from his son's card game and a whole bunch of other stuff, right? The sentiment's not so great. So it's like, you are still working on tooling years later and still working on tooling. This is beginning to feel like vaporware now. I really hope it's not. I don't think it's vaporware. That being said, yes, obviously the whole tooling like joke, any game that has been in manufacturing for years isn't really getting a lot of work done, right? Take Storm Thunder from Lazy Square Games, for instance, right? Like, there's no way they're still working on that 40 hours a week, every single week, multiple people. They would have spent thousands of hours on this stuff now, and it's just not the case, right? They're not full-time working on it. There may not even be a single person full-time working on that anymore. They're working on their other campaigns, trying to get money to eventually deliver what they promised with Storm Thunder, right? That's what Lazy Square Games is doing. That's what Peterson Games is doing. They write updates with a whole bunch of fluff, a whole bunch of stuff, maybe some pictures or whatever, to keep, you know, whoever was looking for those happy. I guess, I don't know who's happy about these, because they're meaningless, right? And so seeing tooling being worked on for so long, yeah, I don't get it. It also mentioned that they lost their steel molds. I don't know how that happened as well, except what was probably the case is they were working with a Chinese company to make the steel molds, and they made them, but that's not like your steel mold to just then take to another manufacturer. Or the steel mold may be for a different machine that won't even work in their machine. So either way, they lost the steel molds and need to remake those. The most expensive part of the manufacturing process, by the way, when it just comes to like, because they're like $5,000, $10,000, right? I mean, it's like a lot of money, but then the plastic inside's pretty cheap. This one here, I did not realize the new partner was so mysterious as I thought it was common knowledge. It was Quimbly. I covered that, and Quimbly's like, you know, talking nerds to, you know, touch grass and stuff like that. He was just upset because people get really obsessed about stuff on the internet, which is like a whole like Twitter kind of thing, and Discord fan group kind of thing, if we're all being honest. But that's probably not the way to talk to customers. And there's this one. Sounds like Sandy is having a lot more fun than backers. This summarizes it for me. This update, Sandy Peterson is happy. He's joking. He's talking about all of these great and wonderful things that are happening in his life. He's super pumped. He loves the mysterious package you're getting with the mysterious finance you're getting and having a great time teasing that out. And meanwhile, backers are just out all of their money with no product yet and have been for a long time. So it's a case of Sandy Peterson being a little more self-focused and not realizing who he's writing this to. He's writing to a whole bunch of people who paid him a lot of money and have gotten nothing back for it, right? So they're not having as much fun as Peterson is over here, who's making new business deals and, you know, figuring out stuff. I'm glad he's excited about it, but I think the focus on backers seems to be getting lost with these companies the farther along we go. I've seen this trend, both as companies grow to become companies instead of just, you know, a group of gamers making games, right? As these companies become bigger and partner with other companies and make these business contracts and do all this stuff, the focus on backers, consumers, people buying their product, not their game, is really, really lost. I've written Make Games Not Campaigns I don't know how many times. I haven't in a while, and I'm wondering if I need to start doing that again. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say around this topic specifically when it comes to that. Whether it was James from Paper Fork Games not caring at all seemingly about why his backers would be upset, and instead of upset that it was said publicly. Or Peterson Games having a great time joking and laughing about this stuff when backers still don't have their game and they're still tooling, right? When it comes to Lazy Square Game doing whatever fake update they're still doing on Storm Thunder, right? All of this stuff just really adds up, and it's leaving kind of a bad taste in my mouth, which is unfortunate because there's a lot of cool games I just showed, and a lot of cool campaigns, and a lot of great companies making them too, so don't get me wrong there. But anyway, I'd love to know your thoughts, so let me know. Guys, again, everything's linked down below. There's those chapter titles. Feel free to rewatch anything you wanted to get more information on or go back to or remember. And as always, have a great rest of your day. Take care, guys.